Yeah, I've been loving what you've been doing. So that'll be a women's self-care course, will it?
Yep, that's a women's self-care training. So I shifted everything like Yoga Alliance requires and looked into the system of all of it. And I went through and I made it all feminized.
Yeah,
all the
explain. What do you
curriculum
mean?
and everything. And
I could assume what you're meaning by that, but what do you mean?
For example, anatomy, yoga anatomy, the yoga anatomy of the female body, like shifting the words around to really cater to the female experience. So that's exciting to try to do something kind of fresh in terms of a 200-hour yoga training. Yeah.
And do you take it all the way down to the subtle languaging that is just so entrained into us, even down to like human, the human body,
and
the
his
body.
Story, history,
yeah,
like all of it. It's fun to play around with the etymology of everything, but also because it is so ingrained in our minds, the common yoga speak, it's like, okay, let's talk about this stuff and break it down.
Awesome. How are you finding that?
I'm finding it to be empowering.
Yeah.
For a while, I thought the yoga police were going to come after me. But overall, I realized the more real I get and the more honest I am, the more, it magnetizes the right people at the right time. And like there's scary moments of things I want to say, and then I say it and it's scary for a little bit. And it's like a huge relief.
It's great. Yeah. Well, we got some great people. I mean, Mark Whitwell's on the team, so to speak, and Tara Judell and these people that we love. And we've got a good crew shaking things up. And I know that is one of your aims, you could say, to kind of shake things up. And with that, it can piss people off. And I find that as well. The yoga police can be pretty set in their ways, but hey, it needs to happen, huh?
Yeah, it does need to happen. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're not really doing the yoga.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Yeah. So you've been on a pretty strong the mission, you could say, to break the taboos of sexuality, death. How are you finding that? Like, have you been hitting any not only the yoga police, but the inner conditioning is so entrained to be so freaked at death and the just old conditioning and oppression of sexuality. How have you been finding that internally and in the group scenario?
Oh, well, gosh, I think I was shaken to my own core with these, how can I say? I realized there were subjects I needed to learn about in terms of my own family, my own experience of life. Like, realizing coming from America, I'm American, and then living in Bali for over 10 years and seeing how they approach death, is incredibly different. So with my American eyes and my cultural conditioning to go over to a place like that and be exposed to something so different, the flip opposite of what I knew, has made a huge impact on me. And it started really making some questions percolate of like, what can we learn from other cultures about death and dying and impermanence so that we're not so fixed on youthfulness and new things and shiny things, and maintaining like this level of energy that isn't sustainable. It became like really important to me to figure that out for myself. And then I realized it's really not just me. It's all of us. And we're not talking about it so much. So I found that to be like a golden opportunity. And definitely the same thing with sexuality. It was like, wow, I'm in the world of Tantra, classical Tantra for years and years. I'm in this world of yoga and spirituality where we're meant to be open and honest and yet, gosh, I was hiding and suppressing so much of, talking about anything sexual or any of the sexual organs for the male or female body. It was still very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to question that too. Like what creates that? What are we doing in yoga if I'm doing yoga for 15 years and I'm still going into the gynecologist and I'm afraid to say something about like an issue I'm having with my vagina or my breasts and I can't I can't say the words with empowerment, then something's not happening in the yoga that needs to happen, right? So bringing these subjects more into the forefront of the yoga education is feels really important to me. And even taking the word yoga out of it and just being like, this is nature, sex and death, wealth.
Yeah. Joe and I often kind of, sometimes in a more humorous way, sometimes in a more just annoyed way. You just want to extricate the word yoga out of what we're doing, but I don't think that'll help the imbalances either. I think it helps to keep the word in, but it has become an interesting time for yoga in terms of all these bubbling to the surface conversations that we're speaking of right now, but also the kind of the whole Instagram world and the more glamorous facade of yoga. And when you're in Ubud and places like Fremantle and Byron Bay, every second person is a yoga teacher. And it's just kind of an interesting time of a lot of the teachings getting diluted, a lot of them getting glamorized. And I think it's helpful to keep the word yoga in. But every now and then, Joe and I are very sick of the yoga scene and want to just ditch the word. But I don't think that'll help either.
Well, I think all of us, I know for you guys, myself included, we have been living deep in these meccas of spiritual seeking and yoga. So of course that can get to be too much. And it's like, who am I without that? And what's left? Who am I without the word yoga attached to my career, professional life, personal life? I think it's an important thing for all of us to be asking ourselves, especially as the market becomes like thin and saturated, as you said. And now
the Tantra world, do you call what you're doing Tantra as well? I don't see the word yoga and Tantra in what you're doing much.
No, not so much. And there's a reason for that, which is I got to a point with yoga where I realized even that has so many limitations for people. People won't go to something because it's called yoga, but it's like, what's the most universal way I can hold these programs? And it's the same with the word Tantra. Tantra really spooks people out. It's misunderstood. I don't really feel like where I'm going with my work or my personal life is necessarily Tantra. I'm more interested in like what's here right now, what's found in nature, how are we built naturally, how is nature teaching us our spirituality, our sexuality, and like, so putting the words in there that trigger people or make them suddenly like close down is I'm touchy around that. So I'm trying to like keep my work kind of clean from all of the lingo. The best I can.
I think you're doing that well.
Thanks,
it also does seem like what you're doing is a really beautiful form of classical Tantra as well. Yet, I guess there's no need to use the word. We get so attached to words.
We've definitely got such a beautiful network of friends and teachers that are really, like we share so many mutual friends and teachers that are really, they are the teachers of classical Tantra from Kashmir Shaivism and Siddha Yoga. And so it's so beautiful to have them as like this circle of support around. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I deeply, deeply honor and respect the teachings and the tantric path. And totally. I think that we are at a time where there's something bigger than that in a way.
back to Bali. Bali is I hold such a deep place in my heart for Bali. Perth generally doesn't have a high opinion of Bali because of
really.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's so accessible and right there, and Kuta being the main go-to for just a piss up party getaway, which is really interesting because for most of the world it is like mystical journey, the exotic location. Yet for Perth, generally speaking, it's really not that. Yeah, people don't look at it as a beautiful place. It's quite strange. It's a strange time. I mean, people have gone through a lot of shit there with the bombings, and a lot of Perth people have been hurt or have had people close to them hurt or killed in Bali. I think that could be part of it, as well as just the dirty scene in Kuta. Every second person is from Perth, and it does attract that grotty bogan scene. Have you been a part of that, or you just go straight to the bogan? Yeah, the bogan. Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people that live in the south don't go to Ubud, and the people that are in Ubud don't go to the south too much. So I don't know how I did it, but I've spent most of my time in just little Ubud, traveling around Indonesia, of course. But I've rarely going down into Kuta and Seminyak.
I just love it. I mean, my first trip there was when I was 19. It was my first trip out of Perth, and it was meant to be a party trip. It was like 25 of us, and it was meant to be a party trip. I went there just keen to surf and party, and I was just blown away at the Balinese people and the Balinese culture, and it was a really profound experience. I was just having awakening after awakening, just in tears of bliss, seeing them in their modes of prayer and offering the incense and the smells. And it was really a beautiful peak moment. And I keep going back to Bali just to immerse in that, and India and these other places now as well. But Bali still is one of my favorite places in the world to go to, even though it has this weird overlay of perception coming from Perth, in which most people strangely don't get to experience that rich spirituality that is just so deep in Bali.
Yeah, I think because I've been in the mecca of it, in the hub of the spirituality of it. That's the part of it I see the most, right? So the dirty south and the dark underbelly that Bali has, I'm very aware of it, but it's not the world I've been roaming in too much. So I have this high regard of the island. I see that she's trembling under the pressures of tourism and pollution, and that's no secret. It's all over the news. It's in magazines. It's online. You know, like the island is under a ton of environmental pressure, and also the people too, with their tradition. I mean, I feel like I've taken a step back too from Bali this year. I've spent more time off the island than I have ever. And I needed to, I started to feel like I was, like, in a way, taking up too much space. You know, it's like living on top of a culture sometimes, and there's a lot of privilege, and it's easy to fall into I'm teaching yoga and I've got my friends here, and going and getting massages and having good food and all of that, when really, there's all of the stores and the masseuses and the restaurants, it's all Balinese people working for low wages to, make sure that everybody else is having a good time. And it's just, I've been really stepping back from the island just to get some better perspective on that, and how I can live a better existence there in terms of being respectful of the culture and connected to the culture, which I see is getting a little bit lost because it's so fun to go to Bali. It's just so easy to go and just nurture and pamper. But after being there for so long, I see everybody going a little over the top with that. Let me have a 5-bedroom villa with 2 swimming pools and a built masseuse and a juicer and make sure there's a security guard and motorbikes when I arrive. It's like excessive.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's also excessive for long periods of time.
Yeah, every now and then I'll look at a old surf video from the 70s and even the 80s, and it was very untouched then, and it was just starting to get a bit of westernized influence and a bit of just what we do take over. But those early days, I mean, just absolutely exquisite, untouched Bali, and it happened so quick. Australians started going there. And but
super chill, old school Bali.
Oh, so beautiful. Every now and then I just click onto those movies. Now the death piece.
I don't think I've ever seen you in Bali now that I'm thinking about it.
I don't think so either.
Think we've ever met up in Bali.
I don't think so either.
Just in person.
I often hang out at Uluwatu. I do love Uluwatu. I've got a deep nostalgic connection to Uluwatu. And yeah, I mean, I do love the coast. I gravitate to the coast when I do go anywhere. I do get up to Ubud, so it is interesting we haven't bumped into each other in Ubud.
Yeah.
And I love to get to Canggu.
Next time we will.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the death piece. Joe and I are also diving deep into that and working with Ramdas. I mean, that's been his primary work really for the last few decades. And just wanting to dive into that with you and how you're finding that exploration of death and just your own insights and experience into it. I don't have a specific question as such, but just really the yoga of death and how you're finding that in the group conversation and what techniques you maybe have for helping people not just conceptualize death and kind of think about it, but even possibly like experience it, like the mystical experience of like dying before we die. And those techniques, what do you bring into the group situation and your own practice to really feel into the realm of death?
Yeah. Well, one thing I think God gave me as a gift is this ability to put a bunch of people in a room and get real about something. So I've been holding talking circles for ages. And when I started holding death workshops, the first thing that I would do is hold a talking circle with the subject of death. Really quite ritualized, but very informal in a sense where everybody's really comfortable. And the first one I did had an equal amount of men and women. There was about 30 people. So about 15 men, 15 women, and very simple. I said, the subject's death. Let's go around and share what is your experience of death and impermanence at this time in your life. And the energy in the room was so palpable of it's almost like no one had to do anything, or nothing has to be manipulated or coerced. It's like the subject itself, everyone does have a personal experience with it, whether it's from a pet dying or a relationship ending or a parent dying or someone getting really sick or a near-death experience. And there's just not so many spaces you can talk about that with your peers. And it's very healing and it's incredibly healing and empowering to be able to open up and share something so real when our world has gotten a little superficial, right? And this clinging on to non-death. Mm-hmm. So to get that real with peers and to listen to others get real in that way too. There's a death-like energy that takes over, that's filled with life itself, and it's astounding. I guess I could say so many things, but I really feel like the best thing to say is how simple it is. It's so simple to get, to just open it, to just say, hey, these are my experiences. What are your experiences?
Yeah.
Like, I've been thinking about this, or I've been really afraid. A lot of depression and anxiety are directly related to the fear of something dying, like
yeah,
me dying. And if we could talk about that a little bit more, it clears up a lot of the depression, anxiety, and isolation I think we all tend to feel but not talk about. It's all related.
I think you would also have people signing up for it, like ready for that conversation. They know what they're signing up for. You're calling it a dying workshop or something like that. But in terms of like being in the West and it not being a part of conversation, I think at first it's a tough conversation. Like, we've so heavily denied the inevitability of death for so long. And even the medical system here, I mean, the kind of founding words were that death is an outrage. Even the hospice system, which is helping people die, that last chapter of death, and the mantra is death is an outrage. So I mean, that's just deeply woven into our culture, that it's not easy and not relaxing and not beautiful, definitely not beautiful. And it is I think, being in those group environments with people that are willing to speak about it, I mean, that's what makes it easy. And then you just melt.
And I guess that's part of it. It's like, we can't ever force someone to learn something or want to know something. So if somebody wants to show up and explore death and impermanence, then that's on them to show up. And you're right, it's not a conversation everybody's up for, and that's fine. It's like with anything else. I do feel that I spent a lot of time going back and forth to Nepal, to a monastery there, to study their death practices. And I find the Tibetan Book of the Living and Dying really a cool read and helpful. And death meditations too, where you feel the elements of your body and the muscles decreasing in their vitality and circulation. The death meditation is great because it step by step takes a person through their psyche, through the layers of death and what our body is made of, and a big letting go, and then building that back up. And I think that for anyone who's feeling afraid of change or afraid of loss, or simply like a woman who is obsessed with maintaining her youthful appearance, like afraid of getting older, a death meditation is really, really awesome, because you can just lay down on the ground and, guide it through this kind of sample experience of just letting go of all the things we think we're going to have forever.
It's huge. It is really one of the most liberating, if not the most liberating things we can do, like for ourselves, our relationship with our own body, and the direct relationships around us, the earth, like everything. I thought I had it down until I had kids, though, huh? It's so tough. Like, when I do it.
That's what the parents say.
Oh, shit. When I dive deep into the contemplation of the impermanence and death of my kids, it gets so tough, but beautiful as well. When I go through like the attachment and the tears and the gripping and the protectiveness and melt into that, that's the oneness. That's who we truly are. That is the true relationship. And then coming back to form, there's always a bit more insight and a bit more balance and more love. But gotta repeat that one again and again. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and you're right. There is so much love underlying the fear of death. so much. And it's just like a minute of contemplation of that, or just seeing the exhale, the bottom of the exhale is just this mini moment of like goodbye everything. Even just a few moments of that is a great reminder and can alleviate a lot of tension.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So what else are you excited about this coming year? So you've mainly got these women's self-care courses, trainings. I see that again and again, like touring the world once again.
Yeah. So I've been going around all over the place and offering the women's self-care training, which I'm just so stoked about that program and what it's turned into, and the people it's attracted and the teachers it's attracted. It's a very honest and surprising approach to women's health and spirituality. But the other thing that I'm doing is, for years and years, I've been doing 200-hour trainings, which have already been addressing taboo subjects, and they're quite unique trainings, always at the Yoga Barn in Ubud. But and I've done that twice a year for 7 years. This year, I'm doing my first 300-hour training, and the subject matter is sex, death, and wealth. The yoga of sex, death, and wealth. So that's in November. And it's something I've been working on for about 2 or 3 years, putting that together. And so I'm really excited about that. And there's been huge response to that program. I haven't said too much about it. I've just said a little bit on social media, and I've spoken to some students about it. But there's been, it's like, I can feel it. It's what people are like struggling with, and want more clarity on and information about.
Yeah.
So
that's super inspiring.
I'm really excited.
I'm excited. That gave me tingles hearing that. I want to hear you talk a little bit more about
it.
So like the yoga of wealth, I'd love to hear where you're at with that, because also entangled in spirituality has often been a kind of imbalance in terms of money. Often the seeker gets so obsessed with seeking liberation, seeking enlightenment, that the money piece often gets swept under the rug, and it's not often a good thing. Often it does lead to a lack of virtue, a lack of something that the money piece is often missing. So I'd love to hear where you're at with that,
Yeah, money is just as exciting to talk about as sex and death. And I chose wealth, though, because it's really more about, wealth is much broader than just currency of money. Mm-hmm. And yoga speaks to wealth more than it would do with currency, because yoga was created before the US dollar.
Yeah.
Or the Australian dollar. But what's really important to me is to start, it's like getting at people's comfort zones around the conversation of wealth. It's like, how comfortable are you right now to price what you know? If you took all the years of college and all the experiences you've had and all of the things you've done and all of the education and the everything, and you put a price on it for an hour to 90 minutes of your time, could you actually put a number on it without like going, like, I charge this for my time? I've done this exercise with so many people, and the majority is so uncomfortable to assess what they're worth. Not that we have to put a price tag on our life experiences and our worth, but it just goes to show, like, there's a misunderstood energy around wealth consciousness and self how we value ourselves. And a lot of religious cultural conditioning around money too, especially for, anyone with a Catholic or Christian or any religion for that matter. But, there's a lot wrapped up into how much wealth we think we're allowed to receive, how we look at abundance, what is abundance to us. Like,
what is abundance to you? What is abundance to you, Emily?
I feel like I just talked around in a bit of a circle.
No, that was a good circle.
To me?
That was good.
Abundance to me is, I think, natural beauty. So abundance especially after traveling to some places that have really been hit hard with development and poor air quality and things like that. Nature's abundance, the elements at play is super, super abundance to me. Clean water, clean soil, clean air, like that. Nothing turns me on like that. And then the inner abundance of, like, the inner resource of, I feel like I'm worthy of being on this planet. I feel like I can take up space and be here on this planet. I feel like an abundance that I am an abundance that can be helpful to someone else or something else, right? I'm someone else's abundance. I think about it that way.
That's super beautiful.
Not that that's easy.
No, that's a whole new channel of being human. I don't think it's been that way much at all.
But if I could have the abundance or the wealth of my inner compass always clearly steering me in the right direction, I would love the abundance of that. Is that always there? No. But there's an inner wealth available of like focus and trust and faith. That's really important to me. Not easy, but I really feel like that's a wealth and abundance. And P.S., I love money and I love making money and I'm good at it. And I have a great relationship with money, and I'm learning more and more and more to talk about money in an empowered way, and to, especially in the spiritual circles, so that it's seen as a way to take care, as a way to take care of myself, take care of others. Like, I pay my faculty incredibly well. When I hold trainings, I always support my assistants. I always, and that was even when I didn't have a lot of money and I was just starting out with these courses, and I would make sure that everyone who worked with me felt really abundantly taken care of, and that came back tenfold.
Of course.
And it's taught me a lot about money.
Well, good on you for bringing it to the forefront. That piece, what do you feel is the biggest resistance to that, especially working with women in these intimate circles? What do you feel is the commonality of being resistant to that abundance and that flow that you're speaking of?
It would definitely be financially. Like, women have a different story to money than men do, and it takes some real reprogramming for a woman to realize she's got some business consciousness and wealth consciousness available to her. She can make more than men or the same as men, and she can rise to create her own wealth streams. It takes way more healing and way more work to get a woman switched on, like for her to believe in herself financially. I mean, wow, we've got eons behind us as women where we weren't empowered in that way at all, and still most of the world isn't women are not empowered in that way. So just helping a woman believe that she can start her own business, helping a woman believe that she's worthy of taking out a loan or asking for money or putting a higher number on what her services are, or having a website where she's receiving payments for something on the website. It's I think it's definitely changing, but I do see that that's It's it, like helping a woman feel worthy of making money and owning money and feeling proud of that and accomplished with that is really, that's exciting.
Very.
And life-changing for women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with this rising feminine, this new movement of women becoming empowered, which is of course absolutely beautiful and necessary. We're also seeing a lot of men, I think, unconsciously struggling with that, and even in very conscious spiritual communities. And Joe and I often we're just talking about it, but kind of marveling at it as well, like observing generally how challenging it can be for men to be with a very empowered woman. And you wouldn't think that would be the case, and here's an empowered man and doing his work, and here's an empowered woman and she's doing the work as well, and okay, beautiful relationship, grow together. But we just keep seeing it again and again, and I'm being honest with it in myself as well when I bump up against it. But often it's fiery and it's challenging for these men to be with this new kind of woman, this woman that's making her own money, and this woman that's empowered and confident. Because of the newness of it, it seems even if the man is fairly aware and conscious, it can be super challenging. And we just keep seeing it causing conflict again and again, and a lot of breakups as well. Like the man literally admitting, fuck, I can't handle you anymore. Can you speak to that a little bit, and then kind of speak to the man right now in whatever way you want to, if it's just like, come on, wake the fuck up, or a bit more compassion to
it. Yeah, I see the same thing happening. And I feel a few things about that. Mm-hmm. I do feel like men need to support each other at this time. Like, yeah. I think men getting together, I've noticed a lot of men waiting for women to get men together to talk about this stuff.
Right.
Like that really surprised me, actually. So I think men need to step up and start talking to each other about these things more. And that's important for men.
Which I think is happening more and more. I'm seeing it a lot lately.
It seems to be men's circles, men's gatherings, and things like that. It's great. I even saw it on, what is that channel? The Today Show, USA Today, like mainstream American TV, when I was visiting my family over the holidays, of men's circles.
Great.
And I was really inspired. To see that on mainstream TV, just your average blokes getting together and talking about their emotions, present moment.
There we go.
Consciousness, and very cool. I also feel like this is the first time in eons where women have had access to their bodies in this way, information about their bodies in this way, empowerment to travel and make money. And it's really like all the women are like, oh my God, I need to know this. I need to know that. This is so new. I feel it in my, I can feel it in my ancestry, how like new this is. I can feel, on so many levels. And there's this grabby addiction quality coming out of a lot of women of like, I need to do it. And it's fast, it's furious, it's fiery, like you said. And it's a phase because it has to come back into balance. So of course the men are like fucking scared a bit of that.
But so there's a bit of validity to that. Yeah.
Sure, there is. I mean, I could speak for myself. It's like once all of this opened up to me, I couldn't be satiated enough. And I was like, give me the power I've been lacking for so long and get the fuck out of my way. Like, So I think the guys just need to understand how big a deal this is at this time in history for women and give some space and just like, if you need to break up with your partner because it's too much, break up with the partner. It's a lot. It's a change in our times, drastic change, and it's intense because it's intense. There's no getting around that. But I say to the guys, it's been the tables turning, like, and it's hard for men to understand that, and of course it's scary, but women need the space right now and the permission to just be in this new experience. And it's a free for all. It's just like women are like, whoa.
As you were saying, it's intense. I was just thinking of Jo in the red tent. She's been in the red tent pretty hard for the last week, and just menstruating hard. Like since she had Lani, she's been menstruating hard, and it's been turbulent. She's been just on fire with it. So we put her in the red tent for a few days and just give her some space to chill.
Oh, bless. Oh, I'm going to have to write to her after this. In all honesty, that's me right now. Started yesterday. And just before our call, I had like an epic 3-hour cry up on this sage. We have this sage mountain here. And it's just like, the amount we're feeling as women is so full on right now. And of course, Jo, after just having her second baby or second child and everything, but the stuff coming through is so full on. It's making women feel nuts. Absolutely. Cuckoo.
But it feels
we don't know what to do with it.
Don't know what to do with it. Yeah. It's a lot. But these conscious conversations, these group environments are so crucial. It can be a lonely path if one is not doesn't have the kula, doesn't have the sangha. So I've been hearing from quite a few people, men and women, just that in particular areas where there aren't groups and there aren't classes to go to, but we're so lucky with the online realm. Do you have any online content for people to connect to that are resonating with your word, or not yet?
I have my Instagram account that I'm on every day pretty much, and post on Facebook, but something in me has just been resistant to doing more video footage and audio.
It's understandable.
But I feel like this year I might go for that. There's something so sacred about being in person with people. I'm a live teacher, I've done everything live with big groups for years and years, and it's like that's what I'm used to, and I get the power of social media. And
it is strange at first when you've got a video camera or two there. It can glitch up the amount of honesty and intimacy and rawness there. Totally.
Yeah. And at the same time, the amount I have learned from others going through their own fears around being on camera and teaching through video, it's like the amount I've learned from that is astounding. So I've got some plans to do some more video and audio this coming year. But I just had, just like so many people, my 2018 was a massive shakeup, which maybe was necessary before going down the path of being seen more virtually.
What got shaken up? The fear of being seen.
My whole life got shaken up this past year. Yeah, everything, all of it. But I mean, sometimes, maybe especially as a teacher, it's like to show up on film, I'd prefer to be as real as I can possibly get. And this past year got real. Got fucking real.
Yeah. Bit of fierce grace in there.
There's some fierce grace. Yeah.
Have you come out the other side? Still in it?
Have I?
Have you come out the other side, or are you still in it?
I think I'm coming out the other side. Yeah.
It
feels good. I feel lighter.
Yeah.
And clearer and much more. The word that just keeps coming back and again is honest.
Honest. Got to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so common in in this work, among the other things we've been talking about, the denial of death, the denial and suppression of sexuality, the denial of money, and the kind of perception of money as the source of all evil. It seems pretty common also, this kind of gripping to maintain a positive facade, you know? So like, especially for teachers, like I'm a teacher, I've got to always come off as positive and glowing and happy. And I've seen that run into big issues, you know, people having massive breakdowns because they haven't been honest and let themselves fall apart, let themselves be negative, let themselves have depression, you know, and that especially for young teachers, you know, that are pumping out of these quick courses and then straight into teaching and stop doing their inner practice and just teaching and keeping that kind of more, you could say, yang energy and just trying to stay high, really, or trying to stay positive. It falls down into a deep heap if you're not honest with it, huh?
Yeah.
And I've fallen
and
into
it's
that
like
as
living
well.
in it. It's also really negating the seasons of life, because to try to live in the eternal summer, which is the teach, rah, 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 you know, course,
yeah,
learn, teach. It's like, that's the summer energy always. And that doesn't give room for letting go of identification with teaching. It doesn't give space for, you know, letting the neurotic parts of the ego have time to rest. There's so much burnout in the yoga world, in the spiritual world. It could be meditation teachers have burnouts big time from the same thing. This need to be perfect as a meditation teacher. This need to be perfect as a yoga teacher. This need to be perfect and put together, and I can handle it all. That was me.
It was me too.
You know, I'm so strong. Well. I'm capable. I can be with anyone through anything. And then I started to feel weird, you know, and then I did have, it really slapped me in the face of I'm not responsible for everybody's journey, and I'm not responsible for everyone's awakening, and I'm not responsible for everyone's emotions. And I thought I was. I somehow convinced myself that I was like a savior or something like that for a while.
And I think it's an even
like a
more
big wake-up call.
Yeah. And it seems to be an even more powerful transmission and a more powerful service to just be honest and to have humility. It's such a weaker transmission when we're putting ourselves up on the whatever
pedestal.
on the pedestal.
Funny how much it takes to just like drop the layers of phony business, you know, protection to get more honest. It's like a lifelong practice. I think it's so cool you guys spend so much time with Ram Dass. What a privilege, you know?
Yeah. Very,
the
very
divine
grateful.
Privilege that is.
Yeah, super grateful.
Have that constant reminder.
And you know, he's got all these labels put on him as being the Baba and being, you know, the Saint Ram Dass and so on, but he doesn't identify with any of it. And that's one of the most powerful things, is like, yes, he's transmitting this beautiful love energy and has had such an incredible journey, but then he's just a fun, giggly, just teddy bear, you know, like it's not about any old image of what we think a master is. And that's what I find most beautiful, is how relaxed the Sangha is, how relaxed the environment is. There's no ego shit creeps into anything. That's the funny thing. The little relational egoic stuff that creeps into anything. Like it creeps into that sangha for sure.
Anything and anywhere. Yeah.
But then typically some humor and conversation comes around it as well, which is cool. Which is what I love. Just the honesty with it. And he's still admitting his neuroses, you know, and he's still got his stuff. And he refers to it as his style. His neuroses are his style, rather than it's who I am. And like, I'm an angry person.
I love that.
It's just my style, you know. And it's okay. Like, you've got that style. I got this style.
And my one of my favorite, if not my favorite quotes ever, is a Ram Dass quote. If you think you're enlightened, go visit your family.
Totally.
It's like everyone who's out there teaching yoga and meditation, go have a visit to someone in your family for a little bit and see what comes up. Like, you know, where the neuroses hiding out comes up in the places closest to home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
not when you're feeling all high and mighty at the front of the room teaching.
That's right. Exactly. But it's tricky.
No way,
like
man.
when we're triggered and in it, we can be so like so convincing. We can be so deluding that that's not where the work is required. The trigger is an interesting place, you know, to remember that when we're in it. It is a deep yoga practice.
Yeah.
We were living with Joe's dad while he was deep in his Alzheimer's, like the early stages of his Alzheimer's, when there was a lot of paranoia and a lot of anger and frustration and hallucination. Like he was calling the cops on us, and he thought we were stealing his house and his money, and we were his caretakers. We were living with him, and I needed to just keep repeating that. Think you're enlightened? This is where the work is. And it was tough, but so deep and valuable. I mean, he truly was. He's passed on now, but he truly was like one of the biggest gurus of my life. Guru in disguise, without a doubt.
I mean, yeah. Courageous for you both to walk into that and be in that.
It was a lot.
Talk about intensity.
Yeah, the yoga of relationship. I mean, that illuminated it for me. Before meeting Joe, I was single for a couple years and was doing I didn't realize I was doing the high and mighty thing, but in retrospect, I was, because I just felt so good and so clear. Just life was very simple. And I was teaching a lot, and it was just in that space. It felt great, and I think it was authentic, but in retrospect, it wasn't very whole in terms of my humanness, you know. So then after that, I met Joe, and straight away she fell pregnant. Straight away we were caretaking for her mom, who was dying of cancer. Straight away we moved in with her dad, who was suffering with Alzheimer's. And I was like,
wow, you got smacked with reality. Reality smacked.
And the amount of times I was diving into Ram Dass's work, if you think you're enlightened, like fierce grace right here, you know, dive in. And it was so full on to be taking care of this new baby, to be with these dying Joe's parents who were passing, and it was so intense, but the richest time of my life. The richest time of my life, like the yoga of relationship, that is what illuminated it for me in my life. And it's developed such a compassion that wasn't there before. I thought it was there, but it not like after going through that grit, you know.
Yeah.
But
I can feel it when you're talking about it.
Yeah, so full on, like, and
tangible.
had no time to practice, really, literally had no time to practice at that time. So it was just like, all right. Joe and I would just kind of meet up every now and then, like lock in and just take a deep breath. And it was really a beautiful time, you know. But before that, it was all about like how much time I could do on the mat, you know, like it was, it was missing a lot. It was missing a lot. My practice was missing many pieces, but I guess life will reveal all the other pieces in many different disguises, huh?
Yeah, it's got its own timeline. And yeah, I like that you said it was a really good when you were teaching a lot, and it felt good. And I think you said the high and mighty part, like that. I think back to when I first started teaching, and for a while afterwards, and the same experience, like everything was about that. There was nothing else. It's just like poured everything into the mat time and the teaching time, and it's like so exciting, and like it's exciting to look back on that. And also I remember the crushing feeling of like, oh, there's a lot missing from this practice.
Yeah, it's crushing.
Oh shit.
Isn't it?
Let's start at scratch again.
Well, I guess for a long time, like in these practices, that was it. You know, like the kind of more renunciate monastic model, that was kind of it. And it still can be it, I think, if that is like one's karma and one's choice. Like that's it. And you know, if one chooses, like Ramdas, for example, from Neem Curly Baba, was told, you are not to deal with money anymore. And since that advice, he literally has not dealt with money. But I guess he's been in a position where other people can deal with the money for him. But yeah,
which is kind of nice in a way for him.
That would be
especially
nice.
As he ages, to not have to like deal with numbers.
Yeah. But he went through the kind of, because before that he was obsessed with money and was a professor and just rolling in money, and that was his main identification. So the teaching was like, you are not to deal with money anymore. And I mean, that was in the 70s. So like the monastic renunciate model was still running strong. And that was the primary path for like any seeker, you know, give it all up. And so I think that model, there's still residue of that, but that was the main kind of reference point. You know, if you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to be on this sadhana, like truly, and like go deep, like
give it all up,
give relationship up, give money up, give all attachments up, which I think is still a path. But if you're in the world of relationship and money, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, it's so good to hear you saying this, because I feel like I've had so many waves of that, right? It's because it is so deeply woven into the history of spiritual practice and the history of yoga and the way the teachings are delivered. You renounce your worldly pleasures and get really, really simple. And I think there's a lot of value to that in the way life is today. But I gotta say, there's waves that have come through of me questioning that and falling trapped to that and giving things up, where I realized I'm only doing this because I'm conditioned to, like from a religious view that I have, treating yoga as a religion, and like that in order for me to find joy and happiness, I need to give this thing up. But really that's not the full truth. That might be just half the truth. And it's been really tricky for me to figure out what's what. And I reckon if it's tricky for me, it's tricky for a lot of people that are on this path. Like, what is that, where, you know, is that a healthy way to think about things, that in order to get to God within myself, or goddess within myself,
that was good.
I have to sacrifice things, right?
Yeah.
What if none of that's true, and it just is? No matter how much money I've got in my account, and no matter how many, Amazon Prime things are ordered to, I don't know, I'm just giving examples.
Yeah.
But all these things we think are like vices, or not so good for the world or for us. It's like, what if it just is anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't have to renounce anything.
Yeah, I remember hearing a nice translation of the Gita in terms of the renunciate piece of what renunciation is, and he was giving his perception on renunciation as really renouncing our selfishness. Like, that's all. It's not about, it's renouncing our attachments and our selfishness. Doesn't mean you got to give up everything. It's much more subtle than that. Mm-hmm. It's a more subtle, you can have it, but what's your relationship with it? What's your attachment to it? It's so subtle. And I think often that
it's slippery. It's
slippery.
How do you get it?
Yeah, because I think if that attachment and renunciation thing is done prematurely, I mean, that's what we've seen in like the churches, the whole child abuse, molestation thing of the holy man swearing celibacy and renunciation prematurely, and it gets fucking messy. Because then there's all this sexual energy, all this lust, all this energy that's being renounced, and then
it hasn't been.
It has. It's still there, buddy.
But it has been renounced, but it's still there.
Still there. So it's such a subtle and deep practice to be honest with that, and it's been such an interesting trip for the seeker, for the teacher, for these people in a spiritual responsible role, to be honest with that and not just put on the spiritual materialistic show. So good on you for keeping it real.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Dedicated for life now.
Yeah, and like you said, we're so lucky to have these beautiful peers and teachers and friends that we've got in common that are also really, I feel, just being super honest and keeping the humility and yeah, that honesty piece I value so deeply.
Yeah, me too. Me too. In everybody. It's such a quality you can feel.
Yeah.
Magnetized to it. Like, oh, a person's showing all of their glorious flaws. Let me get a little closer.
Emily, is there anything else you want to share for our listeners? You've shared of your upcoming courses. I'll put links down below to your platforms and to your website. Is there anything else you feel sharing for life and for the year ahead and so forth?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year. It's a fresh year. I hope that everybody has a year of getting more honest with themselves and their blessings and their divinity, getting honest with that and really honoring the body as beautiful gift, taking care of the body, really taking care of mental health and spending more time with friends and family and not working so much. Like those are my wishes for the world. Yeah. And yeah, anyone out there who's listening and wants to come and spend some time with me and the really great faculty I bring together, just check out the site and reach out. I'm really looking forward to this next year and what's coming.
Beautiful, Emily. Well, it's been great to be with you, cyber style.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for your time. and good luck with everything. And
thank you.
Have a beautiful year. And I hope to see you in person real soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Stuart.
Much love, everyone.
Lots
Thank
of
you
love.
for listening.